The tapping was soft at first, just 3 knocks, like a heartbeat in the dirt. Then silence, then 3 more. Deep beneath the muddy fields of northern France, in a place where death hung like mist, the men of the 179th Tunneling Company lay buried in darkness. 20 British soldiers entombed beneath the front lines. Their tunnel collapsed, their world reduced to shadows, dirt, and prayers. Above them, the war raged on. Rifles cracked, shells screamed, men screamed louder. But down here, no one heard them. They were still alive, but no one knew it. In 1915, the war in France had frozen. After the bloodbath of 1914, both the Allies and the Central Powers had dug in. Hundreds of miles of trenches stretched from the English Channel to the Swiss border. The land in between, no man's land, was a nightmare of barbed wire, craters, and corpses. Generals sent waves of men charging across it. Few returned. And so, to break the deadlock, both sides turned to the ground beneath their feet. Mining warfare wasn't new, but what happened on the Western Front was unprecedented. The British formed specialist units, tunneling companies, made up not of regular soldiers but coal miners, quarrymen, sewer diggers. Hard men, used to cramped shafts and the creak of timber under tons of pressure. The 179th Tunneling Company was among the first. Raised from across the UK, Durham miners, Welsh pitmen, Irish navvies, they were thrown into a war unlike anything they'd known. Their orders were simple: dig under enemy lines, place explosives, destroy German positions from below. Simple on paper. In practice, it was suicide with a shovel. The soil in northern France was treacherous, sandy in places, clay in others, riddled with water and prone to collapse. No mechanical equipment could be used, too loud. The enemy listened for sounds of digging. At night, both sides pressed their ears to the ground, waiting for the scrape of metal in earth. A mistake meant death, by collapse, gas, flooding, or sudden explosion. Many tunnels were dug just 30 or 40 feet apart. In some cases, the Germans and British broke into each other's shafts in complete darkness and fought hand to hand, inches beneath the war. The men called it the underground front. It made the trenches seem almost civilized. In March 1915, the 179th was assigned to a critical operation near Hill 60, a man-made rise overlooking the Ypres salient. The Germans had held it for months, and its elevation gave them a deadly advantage. British command wanted it gone. The 179th was tasked with driving a deep gallery, almost 100 feet underground, directly beneath the German redoubt. They would lay thousands of pounds of ammonal and destroy the hill from underneath. To complete it, a rotation of 20 men worked in shifts around the clock, sleeping inside alcoves and eating what food could be passed down the shaft. Among them was Corporal Harold Langley, a 32-year-old coal miner from County Durham. Broad-shouldered, quiet, and steady, Langley had left behind a wife and 3 children. He wasn't one for war, but he understood tunnels. He understood dark. Langley's closest friend in the shaft was Private Owen Rees, a wiry Welshman with sharp eyes and a dry sense of humor. Rees had worked the tin mines outside Pontypridd since age 12. He carried a silver locket with a photo of his sister and kept a diary, scribbled with a pencil stub onto ration wrappers and scraps of Bible paper. Their section had progressed well. By March 20th, they were within feet of the target. Reinforcement timbers were going in. The mood, as always underground, was tense but optimistic. Then came the shell. The German artillery had been firing irregularly all week, but this one was different. It landed just 15 yards from the shaft entrance. The explosion shook the trees and snapped the reinforced head wall like kindling. Inside the tunnel, the world turned to chaos. The shock wave hit like a hammer. Timbers cracked, ceiling plates collapsed, dirt exploded inward. Men screamed, stumbled, disappeared into falling mud. Langley later recalled feeling weightless for a moment. Then came the crushing weight. He couldn't breathe, couldn't see. Then, darkness. Total. When the dust settled, he was alive. Somehow, he couldn't move his legs. His arms worked, barely. He called out. A voice answered, "Reese." Another, "Sergeant Bell." In the dark, they called roll. Of the 20 men working that section, only 16 responded. The others, either crushed, suffocated, or buried in unreachable side shafts. They were trapped. In that first hour, panic nearly killed them. Some shouted. Some clawed at the collapse with bare hands. One man, a sapper from Yorkshire, tore his fingernails off digging. Langley shouted over the chaos. "Quiet! You're wasting air!" It worked. The shouting stopped. They counted breaths. Reese's watch, one with a faintly glowing radium dial, was the only way to tell time. He whispered the hours aloud. Day 1. They inventory everything. Food, 4 tins of bully beef, 2 water canteens, 3 biscuits, a bit of tea. That was it. They passed it slowly, one sip at a time. No fire, no light, no warmth. The air smelled of wet chalk and death. One man cried softly. Another hummed a hymn. Langley began writing a note with the pencil Reese offered. To Mary. If you find this, I died thinking of you. Tell the children I wasn't afraid. He tucked it in his boot. Day 2. The oxygen thinned. Breaths grew harder. They took turns pressing ears to the roof. On the second night, they heard something. 3 knocks. A pause, then 3 more. Langley banged back with a rock. No reply. Day 3. One man lost his mind, screamed about rats, said he saw his mother in the wall. They restrained him. Later, he died in his sleep. They moved the body to a side alcove. The water was gone. Some licked condensation from the beams. Reese tore pages from his diary to fold into makeshift cups and collect drips. Another man began coughing, deep and wet. Lung infection. No way to treat it. Langley whispered scripture. Day 4. They began to hallucinate. Langley saw sunlight. Reese swore he heard bagpipes. A man from Belfast screamed at someone named Patrick, begging forgiveness. Someone else died. No one said who. A tap came again. This time from above. Louder. A dull scraping. The men didn't cheer. They'd hoped before. Still, Langley knocked back. Then a voice. A real voice. Hold on! We're coming! Day 5. Rescuers worked through the night. The shaft had collapsed too deeply to be cleared in one go. They dug a new passage, straight down, with steel bracing. It took 18 hours. Finally, a beam cracked open. A lantern was passed in. Langley wept. Reese kissed the locket around his neck. Of the 20 trapped, only 12 emerged alive. Langley collapsed on the surface. A nurse cleaned the mud from his eyes. His first words, "Did you find the note? For Mary?" The rescue was barely mentioned in official dispatches. No medals were awarded. The war moved too fast. The survivors were returned to their units after weeks of rest. Some refused to ever go below again. Langley was killed the following year at the Somme. Reese survived the war. He never mined again. Today, the spot near Givenchy is silent. Farmers plow the earth above forgotten tunnels. Tourists pass signs without looking. But beneath the soil are chambers once filled with hope, horror, and human voices in the dark. A single marker reads, "To those who fought in silence and lived in darkness, you are not forgotten." Thank you for listening to Last Post History. Subscribe for more true stories from the world at war.